I absolutely loved this Kansas City Chiefs draft. I thought it was fantastic. I was someone who was a critic of the Tyreek Hill trade. I still think there's a good faith discussion to be had about is that the right call or not. But if you are going to trade away Tyreek Hill, this is what you do. You nail the draft, and that's what they did. They have a complete receiving core now. This was fantastic. So we're going to go through each pick. You see all the picks right over there. So the numbers you see on the screen, so the one on the left, that's where the player went. The number that's right next to the player name, that is where they ranked on the consensus big board, just so you can kind of get a feel of how the general public was feeling about these players. So Trent McDuffie ends up going right where the big board said he should go a little bit later, which is nice value. They traded up to get McDuffie. They could have really used the corner, and I think a lot of people are concerned about, like, is he just a slot guy? Is he more of a zone guy? How does he fit this scheme? That's probably fair, but when I saw him like just being a pure outside man corner, which we did see at times in Washington, that wasn't what they mostly did, but we saw it, and when we saw it, he looked good there. So I like this pick. Yes, it's a bit of a weird scheme fit, but you know what? You're getting a talented player. You're getting maybe most talented player available in a position of need, and then they went with George Karlaftis at pick 30. So some people might have been saying, why aren't you going wide receiver here? But I think they went into this draft with this idea of like, hey, if one of the great wide receivers falls to us, cool, we'll take him. But we're not going to force ourselves to get a receiver round one. There's other receivers available, which they would get with the 54th overall pick. But for Karlaftis, so he's 20 on the consensus rankings, goes 30. I had him, at around 10 on my board because he just wins. He's someone who just finds a way to get pressure consistently, and that's the goal, right? I mean, if you're an edge rusher, do you get pressure? His hands are fantastic, and if you're a fan of analytics, which you know I am, if you look at all of those numbers that tend to translate well to being a good pro, he checks all those boxes. So because of that, that's what gets me excited. A ton of production in college, and for the edge rusher position, that does translate well to the NFL. And they could use an edge rusher. He's going to be fantastic. Put him next to Chris Jones. I mean, forget about it. Skyy Moore at 54, another pick I love. I think he's someone who can win on the outside. He's not considered that way. He's considered a slot guy. And you know what? If that's all he is, then cool, because they could use a slot guy, quite frankly. I mean, let's be honest. A big chunk of the Chiefs' issues last season were because when teams doubled Travis Kelce, who else could get open underneath? Yeah, Tyreek Hill to some degree for sure, but what else do you have? Well, now you have Skyy Moore, someone who that's his specialty, because as great as Tyreek Hill is, that wasn't his specialty. This is Skyy Moore's specialty. This is what he is great at. So you put him in a position where he can win underneath like that, I think it'll be awesome. So love Skyy Moore here at pick 54. I think he fits that scheme well. He's a fast guy, a shifty guy who should be able to run setup routes, which I know Andy Reid values a lot. Andy Reid, the Chiefs might not have the one superstar, but they've got a pretty complete receiving core now of several guys who can at least play. So it might not be a top of the line receiving core, but at least it's not garbage either. And Skyy Moore will help. 62, they go with another one of my guys here, Brian Cook. Brian Cook, I think, is really good. So watched him a lot at Cincinnati. He was the safety there, and he was just always in position. That's what I keep saying. Is just a smart player, and for safeties, that's, especially what Steve Spagnuolo values in safeties. He could be a Tyrann Mathieu replacement. You already have Reed. Now you have Cook, who I think that those guys will do really well, and you have a better safety tandem than you had last year, even with losing Tyrann Mathieu, because you need two safeties to have a great tandem. Last year they just had one. Now they have two. Pick 103, they get another value pick, Leo Chenal, who the NFL was lower on than the big board. I was lower on him as well than a lot of people who are talking about him. However, I love this value. Getting him here is a great pick, right? So that's kind of where things are weird. If I saw some people saying he's a fringe first-round talent. I thought that was crazy. Getting him here at 103, yeah, that's awesome value. Big fan. That makes a ton of sense. Good run stopper for sure. So again, with a defense that just needed some players, he's someone who can just help them get some player, help them get one more player. Joshua Williams at 135. he might be that guy. I don't know. It's weird. So Williams is definitely he was a Division II athlete, so those guys are always kind of boomer bust type guys. It feels like because he was great, but like against bad competition, there's going to be a huge step up and potentially a learning curve. Big guy though, I believe he's 6'3", not the fastest. Runs I believe a 4.53, which is a little bit below the cutoff that I like. I like guys who can break a 4.5, but at least if you can't break a 4.5, you want to have size. He has some size, so at 135, I don't have a problem with this pick. I like it. I'm not super excited about it as I was with some of these other ones, but I still don't hate it because, again, 135, and he has some traits that you can't teach, and he was really good in college just against low level of competition. So I actually think I like this pick a good amount. I just, I'm not sold that it's going to work out, but that's why he went 135. So for 135, it's good value. But what's great value is Darian Kinnard at 145, someone who I think could be potentially a star. He certainly has a good offensive line potential. He was someone who was constantly mocked as a day 2 guy. I said, you see on the consensus, he's 67. I was saying this is too low. He's a fringe first-round talent. He falls to 145, so the NFL totally disagreed with me. But I still think he's really good. He's someone who he had great production at Kentucky. In the SEC, he had great production. So because of that, I think he could absolutely find a way to have good production at the NFL level, because that's another position where if you have production at the college level, you typically have production at the NFL level. And then finally, with their 3 7th-round picks, there were a couple teams that had like seemingly bulked up on 7th rounders. The Packers had 4. The Chiefs with 3 because they do have a bit of a drop off. They had no 6th rounder, then you have 3 7th rounders. First to get Jalen Watson, a guy who seems like he's an interesting flyer to take, has some explosiveness in his 6'2". At the cornerback position. So he just seems like someone who, hey, let's see if, he has a good build and it's kind of like built in a lab to play corner. The issue is he's just not a good corner right now. So you might have to try and make that work. But in round 7, hey, I'm fine with that. With the 151st pick, Isaiah Pacheco, a running back, a very fast running back. That's kind of the thing he's known for is speed. And as we all know, Andy Reid loves speed guys. And hey, running backs, I saw there's a value chart where there's basically no difference between a first-round running back and a 7th-round running back. So, it's only a few picks before the end of the draft, but these guys have pretty similar hit rates as first-round guys do. So, who cares? It's not quite the same, but especially 2nd round or 3rd round to 7th round, those guys are kind of who knows. Also, Nazeez Johnson, safety, who could be sort of a depth guy and maybe will play special teams as well. So, not the biggest. He's 6'2", but not the biggest guy at only 189. But still, he's a bit of an older prospect as well, but an interesting player as well. So, obviously, those 3 picks don't matter too much, but, recapping the entire draft here. So, that's what we're doing as I have videos for every team coming before too long. So, yeah, huge fan of this draft. What did you guys think of it? Let me know in the comments below. What were your thoughts on the Kansas City Chiefs draft? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.